21. In a dark, silent room, a single dim light flickers over an empty chair, while dust slowly moves in the air, and the atmosphere feels heavy as if something unseen is already watching too. A black screen appears with glitching text, warning you not to watch this at exactly 3:21 a.m., as the letters flicker unnaturally like something is interfering with the message 3. A man sits in darkness, his face half covered in shadow, his tired eyes staring forward while his expression shows a quiet tension building slowly inside him. 4. The camera slowly pushes closer toward his face, revealing more detail in his eyes as the background fades deeper into darkness, creating a strong sense of unease. 5. A black dog sits still in a dim hallway, staring directly into darkness, its eyes reflecting faint light, as if it can see something hidden beyond human vision. 6. A wide shot of the house interior shows empty corridors and low lighting, creating a cold and lifeless environment that feels unnatural and deeply uncomfortable. 7. The man enters the house slowly and closes the door behind him, the sound echoing loudly in the silence, as if the house itself is reacting to his presence. 8. The dog looks at him for a brief moment, but then suddenly turns its attention toward the basement door, focusing on it as if something there is more important. 9. The basement door is shown half open, with complete darkness inside and a slight movement, visible as if air or something else is shifting within it. 10. The man ignores the situation and walks past the basement door casually, while the camera remains fixed on the door, emphasizing the darkness inside. 11. A time transition shows night falling over the house as the light fades away and shadows slowly grow stronger, covering every part of the space. 12. A close-up of a digital clock shows 3:21 a.m., glowing in red numbers, with the background blurred and dark, making the time feel more intense and unnatural. 13. The man suddenly wakes up from sleep, opening his eyes quickly as if something forced him awake, while his breathing becomes immediately heavier. 14. He lies still in the dark room, breathing slowly but heavily as the temperature feels colder and the silence around him becomes more uncomfortable. 15. The dog begins barking loudly in the distance, but the tone of the barking feels filled with fear rather than normal alertness or warning. 16. The dog stays away from the basement door, refusing to go near it as if it senses something dangerous that should not be approached. 17. The man slowly stands up from his bed and begins walking toward the basement, ignoring the strange behavior of the dog. 18. Each step he takes feels heavier and slower, as if the floor itself is resisting his movement toward the basement door. 19. His hand moves toward the door handle slowly, and for a moment, everything becomes completely silent and still. 20. The basement door opens slowly with a deep creaking sound, revealing complete darkness below with no visible detail at all. 21. The camera shows the staircase leading down into darkness as the man begins stepping down slowly into the basement. 22. With every step downward, the air becomes colder and his breath becomes visible, adding to the unnatural atmosphere. 23. At the bottom of the basement, the space looks empty, but the silence feels heavy and unnatural, as if something is present. 24. A faint breathing sound can be heard in the darkness, not coming from him, but from somewhere else within the basement. 25. Fear suddenly hits him, and he quickly turns around, rushing back toward the stairs without trying to investigate further. 26. He runs upstairs quickly and shuts the basement door forcefully behind him, the sound echoing loudly in the house. 27. Even after leaving the basement, he feels like something followed him, as if he is no longer alone. 28. He stands still, trying to calm himself, but the feeling of being watched continues to grow stronger. 29. The camera shows an empty hallway behind him, but the atmosphere suggests something unseen is present. 30. The scene slowly fades into darkness, ending the first night with a deep and unsettling silence. 31. The second night begins with the man sitting awake on his bed in a dark room, refusing to sleep as he stares into the shadows, clearly waiting for something to happen again. 32. The dog is sitting quietly in the corner of the room without any movement at all, its body still and tense, as if it already senses the presence returning again. 33. A close-up of the digital clock shows the time slowly reaching 3:20 a.m., while the camera gently zooms in to build tension within the silent room. 34. The clock changes to 3:21 a.m. with glowing red numbers. And at that exact moment, the atmosphere suddenly becomes heavy and filled with unnatural silence. 35. The man freezes instantly, his eyes wide open as he becomes unable to move, while a faint, high-pitched ringing fills the air around him. 36. The dog begins to growl softly from the side, a low warning sound that clearly indicates something dangerous is present nearby. 37. The camera slowly pans toward the basement door, shifting focus away from the man and toward the dark entrance that feels increasingly threatening. 38. Without anyone touching it, the basement door begins to open slowly on its own, producing a deep, creaking sound that echoes unnaturally. 39. The man takes a step backward in shock, reacting to the movement of the door as his fear becomes more visible on his face. 40. The camera slowly zooms into the darkness inside the basement, revealing nothing but a deep, black void that feels alive and watching. 41. A single soft tapping sound echoes from below, like a footstep, breaking the silence in a subtle but deeply unsettling way. 42. The tapping sound repeats again, slightly closer this time, forming a slow rhythm that does not feel human or natural. 43.
Tap, tap.
The footsteps continue gradually, moving upward step by step, creating tension as if something unseen is approaching from the basement. 44. The man remains completely frozen in place, unable to react as his fear holds him still while the sound continues. 45. The dog slowly begins to back away from the direction of the basement door, clearly trying to distance itself from the danger. 46. Suddenly, the footsteps stop entirely, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier and more threatening than the sound itself. 47. The air becomes dense and filled with tension again, as if something is now much closer but still hidden from sight. 48. The man's phone suddenly begins vibrating loudly on the table, breaking the silence in a sharp and unexpected way. 49. A close-up of the phone screen shows the time still at 3:21 a.m., glowing brightly in the darkness of the room. 50. The man stares at the phone without moving, completely frozen as his mind struggles to understand what is happening. 51. The camera begins to slowly circle around him, capturing his fear from different angles, while the background remains dark and uncertain. 52. A shot of the empty hallway shows nothing visible, yet the atmosphere suggests something unseen is present within the darkness. 53. The dog suddenly stops all sound and becomes completely silent, its body frozen as if it is overwhelmed by fear. 54. A close-up of the man's eyes shows fear reflected within them as he scans the room, slowly for any sign of movement. 55. A subtle shadow shifts slightly in the background, barely noticeable but enough to create a strong sense of unease. 56. The man slowly steps backward, his breathing becoming faster and more uneven as panic begins to take over his body. 57. The basement door slowly closes by itself with a heavy sound, sealing the darkness behind it. Once again. 58. He leans back against the wall, trying to calm himself down, but his fear continues to grow stronger. 59. The darkness slowly spreads across the frame, reducing visibility and increasing the sense of isolation and tension. 60. The scene fades into black, ending the second night with a deep and lingering feeling of fear that does not disappear.
61. The third night begins with the man sitting awake in his dark room, his eyes tired and red as he refuses to sleep. clearly waiting for something he knows will happen again. 62. A close-up of the digital clock shows the time slowly approaching 3:20 a.m., while the ticking sound grows louder and builds tension in the silent room 63. The clock changes to 3:21 a.m. once again, and at that exact moment, the entire room falls into a deep and unnatural silence. 64. Everything becomes completely still, with no movement or sound at all, creating a heavy atmosphere that feels almost suffocating. 65. A very faint scratching sound begins softly, barely noticeable at first, coming from somewhere within the room. 66. The man slowly turns his head toward the bed, his movement careful and tense as he tries to locate the source of the sound. 67. The dog suddenly stands up alert, its body stiff and ears focused as it senses something approaching or already present. 68. The scratching sound becomes louder and clearer, now obviously coming from directly under the bed where darkness is thick. 69. The camera slowly lowers toward the floor level, bringing the dark space under the bed into focus. 70. The area under the bed appears completely black, like a deep void rather than a normal shadow, creating a disturbing visual. 71. Without any warning, the dog suddenly runs out of the room in fear, its footsteps quick and desperate as it escapes the situation. 72. The man is left completely alone in the room, surrounded by silence that now feels alive and watching him closely. 73. He slowly kneels down beside the bed, his movements shaky as fear begins to control his body. 74. His hand reaches down and touches the cold floor, sending a visible shiver through his body due to the unnatural chill. 75. He leans forward slightly, trying to look into the darkness under the bed while keeping his distance. 76. The camera shows only darkness under the bed, with no visible detail, creating tension through emptiness. 77. Suddenly, the scratching sound stops completely, leaving behind a silence that feels even more dangerous than before. 78. The frame remains still for a moment with no movement at all, increasing the suspense through complete silence. 79. A soft whisper suddenly comes from under the bed, clearly saying the words "you came" in a voice that feels unnatural. 80. The man instantly falls backward in shock, his body reacting violently to the whisper as fear completely overwhelms him. 81. The room appears normal again at first glance, but the atmosphere still feels wrong, as if something has changed. 82. The man slowly stands up, his body shaking slightly as he struggles to process what just happened. 83. He realizes something is no longer right, as the feeling of danger has not disappeared but instead feels closer. 84. The air behind him suddenly feels heavier and colder, as if something is now standing there silently. 85. The corners of the room appear darker than before, hiding detail and creating a sense that something is concealed there. 86. A close-up of his eyes shows pure fear as he tries to understand what is happening around him. 87. His breathing becomes faster and more uneven, showing that panic is taking full control of his body. 88. He slowly realizes that whatever was under the bed is no longer there, and that it has moved somewhere else. 89. The camera slowly pulls back to show him standing alone in the room, though the atmosphere suggests otherwise. 90. The scene fades into darkness once again, ending the third night with a strong feeling that something is still present. 91. The screen fades in slowly with text showing 2 weeks later, creating a time shift that suggests everything that happened before might now be over. 92. The room appears bright and calm during the daytime, with natural light filling the space and removing the dark atmosphere from before. 93. The man sits casually on his bed, using his phone as if nothing unusual ever happened, his expression relaxed and normal. 94. The dog lies peacefully near the bed, calm and still, showing no signs of fear or awareness of anything strange. 95. A wide shot of the room shows everything looking safe and ordinary again, creating the illusion that the situation has returned to normal. 96. A time transition shows the day slowly turning into night, as shadows begin to return and the light fades away once again. 97. The room becomes dark again, with the same low lighting as before, bringing back the familiar and unsettling atmosphere 98. A close-up of the digital clock shows the time 3:21 a.m. again, glowing in red just like before, signaling the return of the event 99. The man's phone suddenly begins to vibrate on the table, the sound breaking the silence in a sharp and unexpected way 100. A close-up of the phone screen reveals a message from an unknown source that reads, "I am still under your bed in a chilling way 101." The man stares at the message without moving, his bod 102. Slowly, he turns his head toward the bed, his movement careful and tense as he already knows something is waiting there again 103. The room begins to feel heavy once more, just like before, as if the air itself has thickened and something unseen is now very close 104. The darkness under the bed appears deeper than normal, looking more like a void than a shadow, creating a strong sense of fear 105. A very slight movement appears within the darkness, barely visible at first, but enough to confirm that something is there 106. Without any warning, the screen suddenly cuts to complete blackness, creating a sharp and shocking transition 107. A final message appears slowly on the screen, telling you to check under your bed, making the warning feel personal 108. The last line appears suggesting that you might not be alone right now, leaving the viewer with a lingering feeling of fear